The billionaire had everything money could buy, except certainty about the woman his son planned to marry. His mother had watched Eugenia smile at the mansion, accept expensive gifts, and speak about their future. She suspected the young woman loved the lifestyle more than her son. So she proposed a secret test. Obina would lose his fortune overnight, while his mother would disappear from the scene. But there was one more surprise. The mother herself would later appear as a poor beggar. Nobody would know her true identity. If she loves your money, she will leave, his mother warned. Obina disagreed. He believed Eugenia would stand beside him no matter what happened. They made a private bet, and the plan began. By morning, the mansion would be empty, the accounts would be frozen, and the man everyone admired would look like a stranger to the world. Obina thought he was ready. He had no idea the test would reveal something far more painful than his fiancée's true character. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. The next morning, Obina's world appeared to collapse. His company accounts were frozen. His cars were taken away. His mansion was suddenly no longer his. Friends who once called him every hour stopped answering completely. Even business partners avoided his name. To make the illusion convincing, his mother told him to leave everything behind and live in a tiny rented room. Obina knew it was an act, but the loneliness felt painfully real. He stared at the cracked walls and old mattress, and wondered how people survived without the comfort he had always taken for granted. Then he called Eugenia. No answer. He called again. Still nothing. For the first time, fear replaced confidence. His mother watched from a distance, determined not to interfere. Let her choose freely, she reminded herself. Meanwhile, Eugenia was hearing rumors that Obina had lost everything. The wedding plans, luxury home, and future she had imagined suddenly seemed uncertain. She said she loved him, but now she had to prove what those words really meant. For the first time, Obina understood that wealth could disappear, but character had to be chosen. Eugenia finally found Obina in the tiny room where he was pretending to live. She expected sadness, but the sight still shocked her. There was no luxury, no staff, no expensive furniture, only an old mattress, a plastic bucket, and a few clothes. Obina lowered his eyes, ashamed. I lost everything, he said. Eugenia sat beside him and asked how it happened. He told her the company had collapsed and the banks had taken control. She listened carefully, then promised she would not abandon him. Yet her expression changed when she began discussing their future. What if things never returned to normal? She asked. Obina had no answer. He wanted to believe love was enough, but he could see fear growing inside her. His mother watched their meeting through secret information and wondered whether Eugenia would stay. Then came the first sign that the test might expose the truth. Eugenia returned the next day with food. She looked worried, but she also kept asking how long the poverty would last. Eugenia did not know it yet, but one small act of kindness was about to change her entire future. Days passed, and Eugenia tried to stay beside Obina. She brought food and checked on him, but every conversation eventually returned to money, work, and the future. Obina never complained. He searched for small jobs and promised to rebuild his life. Still, Eugenia became more frightened. She had imagined a wedding in a mansion, not a life of counting every coin. His mother quietly observed everything. Then she made the test harder. Disguised in worn clothes, with a scarf covering her hair and dust on her face, she went into the neighborhood where Obina lived. She looked like an elderly beggar who had nowhere to sleep. She carried a small, empty bag and approached Eugenia outside a market. Please, daughter, can you spare something to eat? The disguised mother asked. Eugenia stopped. She had no idea the poor woman standing before her was the mother of the man she loved. The answer she gave next would determine everything. The billionaire's mother held her breath, waiting to discover whether kindness remained when nobody was watching. The disguise was convincing, but the mother's heart was beating faster with every answer she heard. Eugenia looked inside her handbag. She had only a small amount of cash and enough food for herself. The easy choice would have been to walk away. Instead, she bought the old woman a meal and handed it to her. "Please eat this while it is warm," she said. The disguised mother stared at her in silence. She had expected suspicion, annoyance, or even disgust. Instead, Eugenia had shown simple kindness without knowing who she was. But the test was not finished. The mother asked for money for medicine, claiming she was sick and had nowhere to go. Eugenia hesitated, because she truly did not have much left. Then she removed a bracelet she had been given as a gift and said, "I cannot give you much money, but you can sell this if you need medicine." The old woman nearly broke character. That bracelet was valuable, but Eugenia had given it away without asking for anything in return. From a distance, Obina's mother watched with tears in her eyes. She finally understood that the woman her son loved might possess something money could never buy. What mattered now was not the fortune waiting behind closed doors, but the choices made in the open. The disguised mother followed Eugenia for several days. She saw her visit Obina with food, help him search for work, and encourage him when his confidence fell. But Eugenia was still struggling with fear. One evening, she admitted to a friend that she did not know whether she could live in poverty forever. "I love him," she said, "but I am afraid of losing my future." The words reached Obina, who had overheard part of the conversation. His heart sank. He understood her fear, yet he could not ignore the possibility that his mother's suspicion had been correct. Then Eugenia came to him and said she needed time. Obina asked whether she was leaving because he was poor. She denied it, but her silence answered more than her words. Days later, she finally ended the relationship. "I cannot live this life," she whispered. Obina was devastated. He believed he had lost everything twice, first his fortune, then the woman he loved. His mother was ready to reveal the truth, but Obina stopped her. He wanted to understand what had happened without excuses. Then something unexpected occurred. Obina wondered whether love could survive fear, because the test had finally become painfully real. While walking alone after the breakup, Obina saw the same poor beggar his mother had been pretending to be. The woman was sitting near a roadside, struggling to stand. Obina recognized her from Eugenia's neighborhood and immediately approached. "Are you all right?" he asked. She said her leg hurt, and that she had nobody nearby. Obina could have ignored her. After all, he was already carrying his own problems. Instead, he helped her sit safely and looked for someone who could assist. He did not know that his mother was watching from a nearby car. She saw her son's compassion emerge even after heartbreak. Obina then called for help and offered the woman the little money he had left. "I don't have much," he said, "but please take this." His mother almost cried. The test had changed in an unexpected way. She had wanted to discover whether Eugenia deserved her son, but now she was discovering what kind of man her son had become after losing his wealth. Before leaving, the disguised mother asked him why he helped a stranger. His answer silenced her. His mother's plan had started as a warning, but it was slowly becoming a lesson for the whole family. "Because being poor does not make someone less human," Obina said. His mother turned away so he would not see the emotion on her face. She had spent weeks testing everyone around him, yet her son had learned the lesson she hoped to teach. Still, the biggest question remained. Was Eugenia truly a bad person for being afraid of poverty? Or had the test created circumstances unfair to her? His mother knew the answer was complicated. She returned home and removed the old scarf and worn clothes. Obina was shocked when he saw her. "Mother? You were the beggar?" She nodded. Then she explained everything: the fake financial collapse, the secret test, and the bet they had made. Obina felt betrayed that she had manipulated his life, but he also realized she had shown him how quickly people change when money disappears. His mother told him Eugenia had passed one part of the test by helping a stranger, but failed another by walking away from him. Obina was silent. He did not want revenge. He wanted clarity. The experience left scars, yet those scars became reminders of how much they had all changed. Obina could not stop thinking about the bracelet. If Eugenia only cared about wealth, why would she give something valuable to a stranger? His mother admitted that she had made the test too complicated. She was afraid, she said. Fear does not always mean a person has no love. Obina realized he had judged Eugenia as harshly as she had judged his poverty. He asked his mother to arrange one final meeting. When Eugenia arrived, she expected anger. Instead, Obina told her the truth. He had never truly lost his fortune. The company, accounts, and mansion were safe. She stared at him in disbelief. Then he explained the secret test. Eugenia became furious. You let me believe you had nothing, she cried. Obina admitted it was wrong. His mother stepped forward and revealed that she had been the beggar Eugenia helped. Eugenia's face went pale. She remembered the food, the medicine, and the bracelet. She had no idea her small act of kindness had been witnessed. But she also confessed that she had been terrified of poverty. For the first time, nobody tried to hide behind wealth or pride. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. Eugenia asked whether the relationship could still be saved. Obina did not answer immediately. He told her that money had exposed their weaknesses, but it had also exposed his own. He had trusted a secret test more than honest conversation. His mother apologized for interfering in their relationship. I wanted to protect my son, she said, but I learned that people cannot be measured by one moment. Eugenia then explained why she had left. She was not ashamed of Obina. She was afraid of becoming trapped in a life she did not know how to handle. She admitted that she had grown accustomed to comfort, and had never experienced serious hardship. Obina listened without interrupting. The truth hurt, but it was better than another lie. Then he asked one question. If I really had nothing, would you be willing to build with me from the beginning? Eugenia wiped her tears and said she did not know. She could not promise a perfect answer. But she promised she would never again judge his worth by his bank account. Obina smiled faintly. For the first time, they were speaking honestly. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. The billionaire's mother then made a surprising announcement. She would give Eugenia another chance, not because she had passed a secret test, but because she had shown genuine compassion to someone she believed was a helpless stranger. She also told Obina that the company would not simply be handed back to him. If he wanted his fortune, he had to rebuild what he had taken for granted. Obina accepted. He started working again, this time with a different attitude. He visited ordinary markets, spoke with workers, and learned how people survived without inherited wealth. Eugenia did not move back into the mansion. Instead, she began working alongside him. They built their relationship slowly, without expensive promises. One afternoon, Obina saw an elderly beggar near the same market. He recognized the worn scarf, but this time his mother was not disguised. She smiled at him. You finally understand, she said. Obina nodded. The lesson was no longer about money. It was about character. Wealth could disappear in a day, but compassion, dignity, and loyalty were choices people made every day. The family would never see wealth in exactly the same way after everything they had witnessed. Months later, Obina's business began recovering. He had rebuilt one small company from the ground up instead of returning immediately to his former empire. The experience changed him. He no longer measured success by cars, houses, or expensive watches. He measured it by the people who stood beside him when there was nothing to gain. Eugenia also changed. She admitted that she had been spoiled by comfort and frightened by uncertainty. Rather than pretending otherwise, she worked on becoming stronger. Obina's mother watched their progress quietly. She had once believed the test would produce a simple answer, stay or leave, good or bad. Instead, it showed that human beings were more complicated. One person could be afraid and still be kind. Another could be wealthy and still be proud. A family could make mistakes and still learn from them. The mother finally told Obina, I tested her, but I also tested you. He smiled and admitted that he had failed by trusting money and secrets too much. His mother laughed softly. Then perhaps the test worked. This time, Obina agreed. The future was no longer guaranteed, but they finally had something stronger than guarantees: trust. One evening, Eugenia returned to the market where she had first met the disguised beggar. She carried food, medicine, and clothes for several elderly people living nearby. Obina asked why she kept returning. "Because I remember what that woman taught me," she replied. She never learned the lesson from the beggar's identity. She learned it from the moment she chose to help someone who could offer her nothing. Obina looked at her with quiet admiration. His mother watched from across the street and smiled. She knew the family had finally moved beyond the original test. Later that night, she told Eugenia, "I owe you an apology." Eugenia was surprised. The older woman admitted she had judged her before truly knowing her. Eugenia also apologized for leaving Obina when fear became stronger than love. Neither woman tried to pretend the past had never happened. They simply chose to stop carrying it. Obina realized that forgiveness was not forgetting. It was deciding not to let an old mistake control the future. The three of them sat together, no longer pretending. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. Then came the final surprise. Obina's mother revealed that she had secretly donated a large portion of the fortune to a foundation for struggling families. She had kept her promise from the original bet. Obina was stunned. "You really gave it away?" he asked. She smiled. "Money is useful when it changes lives, not when it controls people." Obina understood. His mother's greatest fear had never been Eugenia herself. It was the possibility that wealth would turn love into a transaction. The test had exposed that danger, but it had also taught the family something deeper. Eugenia had not been perfect. Obina had not been perfect. His mother had certainly not been perfect. Yet they had all changed. Obina asked Eugenia if she still wanted a future with him. She took his hand. "Yes, but not because you are a billionaire." He smiled. "Good, because I am planning to build something different this time." His mother laughed. "Then perhaps you are finally ready to be wealthy." They laughed together, knowing the hardest part of their story was finally over. The future was no longer guaranteed, but they finally had something stronger than guarantees: trust. Years later, Obina became more successful than before, but his life looked completely different. He kept one modest room from his difficult days as a reminder of what he had learned. Eugenia became involved in the family foundation, helping women and families who had fallen into poverty. Obina's mother often visited the foundation without announcing who she was. She wanted to see whether the kindness she had once tested remained genuine when nobody was watching. It did. Eugenia treated every visitor with the same respect, whether they arrived in expensive clothes or worn sandals. One afternoon, an old woman approached her and asked for help. Eugenia immediately brought her food and arranged a place for her to stay. From the doorway, Obina's mother watched with tears in her eyes. She no longer needed a disguise. The truth was already visible. Eugenia had changed, Obina had changed, and even the mother who started the test had changed. Wealth had brought them together, but hardship had taught them what wealth never could. Their greatest inheritance was no longer money. Obina discovered that a fortune could buy comfort, but it could never purchase compassion or loyalty. Obina eventually told his mother that the original test had frightened him more than he ever admitted. He had believed losing money would be the worst thing that could happen. Instead, losing his identity as a wealthy man forced him to discover who he really was. He learned that some friends loved his lifestyle, some people feared his status, and some strangers respected him simply because he treated them with dignity. Eugenia learned a similar lesson. She realized that love was not about pretending hardship was easy. It was about facing difficult conversations honestly and deciding what kind of future two people were willing to build. His mother learned that protecting a child does not always mean controlling the choices around him. Sometimes it means allowing him to make mistakes. The three lessons became the foundation of their new family life. One day, Obina asked his mother whether she regretted the test. She thought for a moment. "I regret the deception," she said. "But I do not regret what we learned." Obina nodded. He agreed. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. At the end of the year, the foundation hosted a large community event. People from every part of the city attended. Some were wealthy donors, while others were families receiving assistance. Obina stood on the stage beside his mother and Eugenia. He spoke about how quickly circumstances could change, and how dangerous it was to judge people by what they owned. He never revealed every detail of the secret test. That story belonged to the family. Instead, he shared its lesson. "A person's value does not rise when their bank account rises," he said. "And it does not fall when their money disappears." The crowd applauded. Eugenia looked at him with pride. His mother smiled because she knew those words came from experience. After the event, a little girl approached them and thanked them for helping her family. Obina knelt and told her to remember one thing: kindness should never depend on what someone can give back. His mother heard him and smiled. The lesson she once tried to force had become part of her son's character naturally. That was the real victory. He had once feared losing everything. Now he understood that losing an illusion could be a kind of freedom. That night, Obina and Eugenia walked home together. There were no cameras, no reporters, and no luxury cars waiting outside. They simply talked about ordinary things. Eugenia asked whether he remembered the tiny room where he had once lived during the test. Obina laughed. "I remember everything." He told her that room had changed his understanding of happiness. Eugenia admitted that she still felt ashamed of leaving him. Obina stopped and took her hand. "You were afraid. I was afraid too. We both made mistakes." She looked relieved. Behind them, his mother watched from the doorway of the family home. She had once wondered whether Eugenia was worthy of her son. Now she knew the better question was whether the two of them were willing to become worthy of each other. They had learned to speak honestly, forgive carefully, and value people beyond wealth. The old test had ended, but its lesson remained. Sometimes people discover the truth about others only after everything familiar disappears. Obina had lost money in the story, but he was beginning to gain something far more valuable than wealth. The story could have ended with a wedding, a mansion, and a billionaire's happy family. But the real ending was quieter. Obina and Eugenia chose to rebuild their relationship without pretending they had never hurt each other. His mother stopped testing people and started trusting conversations instead. The family foundation continued helping people who had lost jobs, homes, or loved ones. And Obina never forgot the day he had seen his mother disguised as a beggar. That image stayed with him because it represented the moment his entire understanding of wealth changed. He once believed money protected people from pain. Now he knew money could disappear, while character remained. Eugenia had not passed every part of the test perfectly, and Obina had not handled the test perfectly either. But they had learned to face their flaws instead of hiding them. In the end, that mattered more than any fortune. His mother had wanted to know whether Eugenia loved her son or his money. The answer was not simple. The secret would soon be exposed, and nobody was prepared for what came next. The final lesson came from the simplest moment of all. One morning, Obina's mother found Eugenia sitting with an elderly woman outside the foundation office. Eugenia was listening patiently while the woman explained that she had lost her home. There was no audience and nothing to gain. Eugenia simply listened. Obina's mother watched from a distance and realized she no longer needed tests. She had spent so much time trying to discover whether people were sincere that she had forgotten sincerity was usually visible in ordinary moments. She walked over and sat beside them. Eugenia smiled and made room for her. No one mentioned the disguise, the bet, or the fake collapse. Those things belonged to the past. Later, Obina joined them and joked that his mother had finally stopped spying on everyone. She laughed and told him she was learning. They all knew the family had survived something that could have destroyed them. Instead, it had taught them to value compassion over status, honesty over appearances, and people over possessions. The billionaire still had his fortune, but the fortune no longer defined him. His mother still had her doubts, but she trusted her family more. And Eugenia no longer feared a future without luxury, because she had discovered something better, the strength to build a life with someone, one honest day at a time.